So today we're going to get crafty on the channel, and that's because I'm going to be showing you how to build these styling blocks that you can use in photography as well as videos. A few months ago we had to make a video which was going to involve a lot of these type of blocks, which I'm sure you've seen in photo shoots, kind of in ads and magazines, on Instagram. And a lot of people use these, and I've always kind of wondered where people get them from, because when you kind of Google them around, a lot of things that come up are sort of display blocks for stores. But I wanted something that was durable, that had really nice crisp edges, that was flat, and that could also be painted different colors so I could reuse them again and again. I figured out a way that I could use kind of wood painting panels, which were available at an art store just down the street. And this actually turned out to be a really easy way to sort of build these styling blocks and get them really clean. And the other benefit was that they already come in a whole variety of sizes. So it was pretty simple to make a bunch that were sort of like different iterations of sizes from each other, because we needed quite a few of them, as you'll see, and we needed them to be different heights as well as different areas on top. So I thought I would show you how I made these. This is, I'm sure, not the only way to make these, but it turned out really well, and I'm sure we're going to use this on many, many more shoots to come. So yeah, here's how we built these styling blocks from scratch, and you can too. So the first thing is you're going to need to know the size of the blocks that you want, as well as their length, width, and their height. And essentially we're using these paint panels which come in a variety of sizes, but we're going to be combining two of the same size back to back and joining them so that we can have kind of nice flat sides on each side. So first, we're doing a lot, but you can do just one of these or a couple. They usually come from everything from really large to very small panels for painting. And I priced it out. It was actually going to be quite a bit cheaper doing it this way than buying product display blocks. And a lot of those are foam or acrylic plastic, neither of which lend themselves really well to painting. These ones are out of wood, and these panels are made for painting, which makes them really great for this purpose as well. But essentially, you want to find two pieces and really line them up as well as you can. Now, you're not going to probably be able to line this up perfectly with every side, because every block is a little different, but line up your main sides, and then we're going to take care of the rest when we get to sanding them. So I'm getting my edge here, and I'm just going to clamp this down. And what I'm going to do is use screws to sort of like hold it all together. One thing to be careful is to make sure the screws you use won't go all the way through your panel. You only want to fill in holes on one side, and that way you have one side that's completely perfect and doesn't even have any kind of like filler material. So just double check the depth of your screws. So now I'm going to pre-drill holes before I put any glue in it. And I'm doing this because once the glue is in there, everything can move a little bit. And if I pre-drill holes while it's all aligned and clamped, it'll allow me to then just kind of put in the screws after the glue's in there, and it'll kind of bring it into perfect alignment. So I'm only making holes on two of the sides for now. Now that we have our screw holes pre-drilled, I'm going to remove the clamps, and it's time to glue the pieces together. Now I'm just using regular wood glue. You should be able to find it in any hardware store. Now, as you remove the clamps and separate these two pieces, you want to make sure you know what side. So I just mark it with a little line, or you can number the edges, just to make sure the orientation is going to be the same. And once you apply your glue, you need to put them back together. The next step is to apply the glue. Now I'm applying the glue to both sides of the pieces all the way around the frame. And then I'm going to just spread the glue. I used a small piece of cardboard, but you can use anything you have. Once you put the glue on, line up your pieces, and now it's time to put screws in those holes that you pre-drilled to compress everything together and clamp it down. In addition to the two holes I pre-drilled earlier, I'm also going to drill two more holes and put screws in on the other sides that didn't have holes in them earlier, just so everything's clamped down nice and tight all the way around the perimeter. Now you just have to wait until the glue dries, so make sure you follow the directions on the glue that you bought and wait the right amount of time. This part is very important. Once the glue has dried, feel free to remove the screws, and you're ready to move on to the next step, which is filling in all the holes and gaps with wood filler. I'm going to use a putty knife to grab some wood filler and fill in all the holes from when we pre-drilled to clamp the piece together. Once all your holes are filled in, We're gonna go over the edges as well so that we get rid of any sort of seam between the two pieces. Now, I recommend being, you don't have to be too careful here, although you don't want to put a lot of excess on, but we are going to sand it all down after, so it'll all get smoothed out afterwards. So once you have all of your holes filled and all of the seams filled between the pieces, it's time to let your pieces dry. And once again, just follow the instructions on the container for your specific wood filler, and just make sure you give it enough time so it doesn't crumble or gets messed up when we paint it. This is what the wood filler looks once it's dry and before we move on to our next step, which is sanding. I'm using an orbital sander here, but you could just as easily do this by hand with a sanding block. So if you don't have one of these, don't worry, you can still do this project. The thing about sanding is you just need patience and move from a coarser grit, which is a smaller number, to a finer grit, which is a higher number, and just do several passes as you get finer and finer. Basically, the more passes you do and the finer you eventually get, the smoother your surface is going to be. The next step is painting. Now, don't do what I did here, and I did this in my bathroom. I basically turned it into a paint booth. I had a window open and sort of air flowing, but this isn't ideal. I did it because we were in the middle of winter and I really had to get this done for a shoot. But I would recommend doing this outside or at the very least in a garage with the door open. But I just used regular spray paint and I did a couple passes making sure to get good coverage. You will probably need more spray paint than you think. Maybe if you prime it or if it's been painted before and you're just kind of repainting it, you'll need fewer coats. And again, if you want to make it really kind of smooth finish, you should also sand a little bit between coats. I didn't do it here, but with the spray paint, it was very smooth and it had a nice matte finish, which was perfect for what we were using it for. So as you can see, here it is being used on a video shoot that we were doing for our client, Milko. Now, we actually shot some behind the scenes for this video, so if you want to see it come together, make sure you hit subscribe. And these risers worked out really, really well. There is some kind of imperfections in places, but for photos, it really doesn't matter. And for video, once we had it lit and the exposure all set, they all disappeared. And we had really clean edges. I think overall, this turned out way better than I thought it would. And now we have these awesome risers slash styling blocks that we're probably gonna use honestly for years to come in different projects. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your feedback. This is one of the first kind of like building videos we've done on the channel, but make sure you hit subscribe. We're releasing videos a few times a month and a lot of it's involving creativity, photography, and kind of like different tips, tricks, and techniques you can use to improve your productions. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Eugene from Worker Bee Supply, and I'll see you next time.